Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. How is everyone doing? Today, we are playing against the most obnoxious jungler in League of Legends, the Bushmaster. Ivern is simply a hard matchup by default, and the reason is that you will never have a good opportunity to fight him toe-to-toe for the whole game. Now, the main issue with Ivern is that his clearing is insane, his counter jungling is crazy, and to top it off, he can steal your camp directly and gank at level 2. Even if the gank isn't successful, he's already ahead and keeps pressuring your team until one gank works. Another issue is that his items are cheap. Most of the time, he'll only build support items, and the odds are that his duo partner is playing with him to help him reach his core items. Ivern's build is so cost-efficient that you'll most likely be dealing with 1 versus 2 or even 1 versus 3 situations throughout the whole game. Now, of course, with that in mind, it's a bad call to focus only on farming against Ivern. When you play against the bush, you should be as active as possible and try to make your plays shine before the mid-game. Hopefully, your team will understand that we are up against a champion that doesn't rely on items. All his items are support items. He can jump over walls with his Q, bother everyone on the enemy team, and camp in a bush the whole game without getting punished. His base damage and shielding are similar to those of a support champion, so falling behind in levels and gold doesn't affect him much. Another issue in this matchup is that there's no proper build to counter Ivern. The rule of thumb is to stick to a build you are comfortable with because most of the time, it will come down to skirmishes or team fights. Even if you catch Ivern in the jungle, he'll just run away, leaving you to fight Daisy while he escapes to safety. And to make matters worse, Daisy seems to get increased movement speed and reduced damage for the first 5 seconds of being called, making her even harder to deal with. It creates an endless loop where you chase him but can't kill him, and he keeps running until you either give up or die. Thankfully, the situation changes completely when you have your teammates around. In this game, we have Bard as support, and Bard is one of the best supports you can pair with Volibear. Once we burn Ivern's flash, he becomes an easy target, and if we focus him first, the rest of the fight will be straightforward since he provides so much utility to his teammates. Killing him early will also likely tilt his team because Ivern players rely heavily on having someone around to back them up. If there's no one to support, Ivern becomes completely useless as a pick. Another aspect of this game is that we're playing at a high pace, but not everyone is on the same page. For example, our mid laner is a slow starter, as we saw from the first gank. Some players need a gradual introduction into the game, taking baby steps until they warm up, which usually happens toward the end of the mid game or the start of the late game. This means we'll struggle a bit early on, but we should stay patient, avoid the urge of flaming anyone, and if we do criticize, make sure it's done constructively. Now, against Ivern, the best first item you can build, and really the only good one, is Frozen Gauntlet. It's simply the best option to slow him down enough to keep your bite sticking, giving you a lot of sustain and survivability. Maxing your Q will backfire because you'll most likely end up fighting Daisy, who will keep knocking you up. The plan should be to focus on stalling the fight similarly to Ivern. In this game, however, I didn't start with Frozen Gauntlet. I'm more comfortable playing with Cosmic Drive, as my goal is to kill his allies and establish an early game advantage. I plan to pick up Frozen Gauntlet as my second or third item instead. Now, of course, since we can't kill Ivern in a 1 versus 1 and can't chase him properly at this stage of the game, the only thing we can do is be patient until he ganks someone. Then, we counter-gank. The only issue here is that you need to be familiar with his pathing and keep an eye on where Ivern will be. Sometimes his moves might seem random or even lucky as he appears right in front of you. And of course, Ivern players who play aggressively usually have their flash ready. If not, they're counting on their allies to be aggressive instead. Now, since the plan is to focus on seeking Ivern and only counter-ganking, the idea is to wait until he has used his spells. He doesn't deal much damage, so most likely our allies will stay alive long enough for us to follow up. The awkward thing is that with the Hextech portals, this person assumed I'd be on the blue side for some unknown reason. The objective was up on the red side, and here we are. He set himself up for the take just like that, for free. As you can see, Ivern has the utility to dash over walls with his Q, which is a huge deal. He can run from a chase, dodge vision with it, and the only way we could do the same is either by using Hex Flash or burning our ultimate or flash, which is a huge trade. But this is how this champion will out-jungle you, simply with his Q ability. Now, I believe that I made a mistake in this game. Not a huge mistake, but a mistake nonetheless. The mistake was that I went for Cosmic Drive first. The enemy team doesn't have a tank or a frontliner. They only have utility and damage. They have 2 of the highest AD damage dealers in the game, Jhin and Gangplank. If they get these 2 champions ahead, it's basically a sign that you're going to get your face pushed in during the mid-game if you don't build armor. And to top it off, you won't be able to tank their full damage for the late game. At a certain point in the super late game, everyone will start getting their face pushed in on our side, even the tanks. And now, of course, in this instance, we are the hunters, while they are the prey. I took the best possible angle to dive them under their tower, and remember, the chicken camp is a location you should fight for to secure vision. And of course, if we manage to land on top of Ivern, he is dead 100%. For some unknown reason, the enemy team is still pushing for the fight. At this point, we've gone from jungler versus jungler to a stupid team versus a stupid team, since there will be no added value if either of us wins this fight in the middle. But oddly enough, and by some unknown miracle, those 2 kills gave us the Baron. Ivern will take around 20 seconds to run from the base to reach us, and by that time, we'll have already finished securing the buff. Now, as I said earlier, there is no proper build against Ivern. Whether you go AD, AP, or tank, the outcome will almost be the same. You won't be able to kill him. However, against his team, this build is perfect. There's only one issue. If Gangplank gets his barrel setup ready, we won't be able to kill him. On the other hand, he'll be the one to kill us all. Well, as I said earlier, Bard is one of the best supports in League of Legends in terms of design and synergy. What we need now are opportunities to catch the enemy team off guard, and Bard provides that. We also need some CC, and Bard can deliver that, plus healing, and a very clutch Zhonya's Hourglass for AoE protection. So, I believe the real counter to Ivern in this game is Bard, not me. After using the Hextech portal so many times, I started wondering if there was a way to smite the Drake while using it. Unfortunately, the spell was grayed out, meaning it's not possible. However, the enemy team is putting themselves in a very vulnerable situation. Once I catch Ivern, he'll be slowed, and there's nothing he can do to escape his death. When our allies arrive, even if the enemy team has Lux support, she might deal some damage, but it won't make a difference. After a lot of back and forth, we finally managed to reach the enemy base, and it's been a long journey to get here. The best move right now is to take the inhibs, reset, and apply pressure to the top side. The downside is that we're taking a lot of unnecessary damage from Lux's skill shots and the poke from Jhin. This combo is similar to a Nami Lucian lane, with significant range that can take away 50% of your health or even one-shot you. Another funny aspect of this game is that whenever I see Renekton, I engage on him as soon as he's just 2 meters in front of me. I rush in, just one tap, bite, and then back off, to the point that whenever he sees me, he expects me to engage. Even a slight movement in his direction triggers him into a panic attack. But of course, the fact that we pressured the enemy team into their base for the last 5 minutes gives us a lot of advantages. First of all, we get the free Baron, and we'll also get the free Drake. With this, we should be able to close out the game with a one final push. By the late game, the flow of the match evolves from individual performances against champions to skirmishes, 2 versus 2s, 3 versus 3s, and eventually full team fights. In our situation with Volibear against Ivern, I believe that if the enemy team with Ivern were even decent or played well together, I would have been on the losing side for most of the game, only turning the tide when we had a strong carry on our team. Riot seems to push the mentality that support players can carry regardless of what everyone else is doing. But the reality is that you need something to support in the first place. You can't support nothing. This is the last play of the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. As always, if you have any questions about this matchup, drop a comment and I'll gladly answer them. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe and drop a like. Until next time, take care everyone, and peace.